You're walking through a forest at dusk, and somewhere off in the trees, something is watching you. You can't see it. You can't hear it, but it's there, and here's the part that should genuinely surprise you. It's more afraid of you than you are of it. Not nervous, not cautious in some mild, manageable way. Afraid. Deeply, biologically, instinctively afraid, in a way that's been programmed into its nervous system across thousands of generations. You haven't raised a weapon. You haven't made a sound. You're just standing there, and somehow that's already enough to make an animal capable of killing you in seconds decide it would rather walk away. This should be strange to you. Think about what you actually are. Physically. You're slow. A deer can outrun you without trying hard. You're weak. A chimpanzee, pound for pound, could tear you apart. You don't have claws. You don't have fangs. Your skin tears if you fall on gravel. Your night vision is laughably bad compared to almost any nocturnal predator. On paper, judged purely on physical specs, you are one of the worst-equipped large mammals that have ever walked the earth. And yet here you are, sitting at the absolute top of the food chain, with nearly every dangerous animal on the planet biologically wired to avoid you. So what happened? What did ancient humans actually do to flip that script so completely? It didn't happen all at once, and it definitely didn't happen because humans got physically stronger. If anything, the opposite is true. Compared to our early ancestors, modern humans are weaker, slower, and less physically robust. What changed wasn't the body. What changed was the strategy. And once you understand the strategy, the fear starts to make perfect sense. Start with endurance, because this is the part most people get completely wrong. They imagine early humans as brutal, muscular hunters, overpowering animals through sheer force. That's mostly fiction. The real weapon ancient humans had wasn't strength. It was an almost unbelievable tolerance for suffering over time. Anthropologist Louis Liebenberg has spent decades documenting a hunting technique still used today by groups like the Sand People of the Kalahari Desert, called persistence hunting. The method sounds almost too simple to work. You pick a fast animal, something like a kudu or an antelope, and you start walking after it, not sprinting. Just walking, sometimes breaking into a slow jog. The animal, panicked, sprints away at speeds you could never match. It gets distance. It stops to rest. And then you show up again. Walking, calm, relentless. This repeats for hours. Sometimes the entire day, under brutal heat, across miles of unforgiving terrain. The animal sprints, rests, and sprints again, burning through its energy reserves in short, explosive bursts. The human just keeps walking, never sprinting, never stopping. And here's the biological trick that makes this possible. Researcher Dennis Bramble at the University of Utah has spent years studying why humans, of all animals, are built for this kind of pursuit. The answer comes down to one specific, almost embarrassing biological feature: sweat. Most mammals cool their bodies by panting, which means they physically cannot pant and sprint at the same time. They have to stop running to cool down. Humans regulate body temperature through sweating, which means we can run and cool off simultaneously. It sounds small. It is not small. It means a human can keep moving at a steady pace for hours, in conditions that would kill almost any other large mammal through heat exhaustion first. Eventually, the prey animal collapses. Not from an injury, not from a wound, from heat stroke. Its legs give out. Its body temperature spikes to dangerous levels. And the human, who never sprinted once, who never threw a spear, who never needed claws or fangs, simply walks up to a defeated, exhausted creature and finishes what biology already started. Now put yourself in that animal's position for a second. You're faster. You're stronger. Every single instinct you have says the danger is behind you, and it should be, because nothing chases like that. Nothing should be able to chase like that. And it's still there, hours later, unhurried, unbothered by the heat that's killing you. That is not how predators are supposed to behave. And prey animals across the African savanna and beyond had no evolved response to a hunter who simply refused to stop. That alone would have been enough to make humans unsettling. But it wasn't the only thing ancient humans figured out, and the next discovery may have been even more important. Somewhere between 1 and 2 million years ago, ancient humans began controlling fire, not just encountering it after lightning strikes or wildfires, but actually keeping it alive, carrying it, feeding it, and using it deliberately. This sounds almost mundane to modern ears, because fire is everywhere in our lives now. A stove, a lighter, a campfire on a weekend trip. But to understand what this meant to the rest of the animal kingdom hundreds of thousands of years ago, you need to understand just how deeply fear of fire runs. Across nearly every land animal species studied, fear of fire isn't learned. It's innate. Laboratory animals that have never been within 100 miles of an open flame in their entire lives will still show measurable stress and avoidance responses to the smell of smoke. This fear predates conscious experience. It's wired into the nervous system at a level below thought, passed down because for millions of years, animals that ran from fire survived wildfires, and animals that didn't. For nearly the entire history of life on land, fire was something that happened to you. It came from the sky. It spread through dry brush. It was an event, not a tool, and every creature's only useful response was to run. And then one species, slow, weak, fangless, figured out how to take that event and put it in a pit. Carry it. Control it. Summon it whenever they wanted, wherever they went. To every other animal observing this from the safety of the tree line, this wasn't impressive. It was incomprehensible and terrifying. A species that could command the one thing every instinct screamed to flee from had just rewritten the rules of what danger looked like. The fear didn't fade as humans spread fire use across the globe. It got reinforced, generation after generation, because animals that approached human fire and got burned, or simply learned to associate it with danger, passed that caution down. The ones that didn't learn the lesson didn't get the chance to teach it to offspring. There's a third piece to this puzzle, and it might be the most important one, because it didn't happen inside any single human body at all. It happened in the space between humans. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar has spent decades researching how human social structures scaled in ways genuinely unmatched by any other primate species. Most predator species hunt and live in small, tight groups. A lion pride might include a dozen individuals. A wolf pack rarely grows past 10 or 12. These numbers aren't arbitrary. They're limited by how much coordination and communication a species can biologically sustain. Ancient humans broke that ceiling entirely. Groups of dozens, sometimes well over 100, coordinating through shared language, shared memory passed down through stories, and shared intent that let them act less like a collection of individuals and more like a single distributed organism. A lone human in the wild is genuinely fragile, slow, weak, easy prey on paper. But ancient humans were almost never alone, and that changed everything about how dangerous engaging with one of them actually was. Attack one human at a campsite, and you don't just risk that single encounter. You risk drawing the attention, the spears, the fire, and the coordinated retaliation of dozens of others who heard the commotion and are now moving as one unit toward the threat. For a predator making careful survival calculations, and they are always making careful survival calculations, the math stopped making sense. The potential reward of a single human kill almost never outweighed the catastrophic risk of provoking an entire group. Here's what's genuinely fascinating about how this fear spread across species and continents that had zero contact with each other. Evolution doesn't require every individual animal to personally understand why something is dangerous. It only requires enough individuals to test that danger and lose. The predators that approached human camps too boldly, that tested the limits, that ignored the fire and the size and the numbers, didn't survive to pass their boldness forward. The ones that hesitated, that kept their distance, that treated humans as something to be avoided rather than engaged, those were the ones that lived long enough to reproduce. Multiply that selection process across hundreds of thousands of years, across every continent humans expanded into, and you get something remarkable. Caution toward humans stopped being a learned behavior passed down through experience. It became biology. Instinct, the default factory setting wired into the nervous system of nearly every large predator species alive today. A 2019 study from researchers at UC Santa Cruz put this to the test directly, and the results are almost hard to believe. They played simple audio recordings of human voices, just people talking normally, near mountain lions in the Santa Cruz Mountains of California. The lions fled, not just fled, but fled at rates equal to or faster than when they heard the sound of barking dogs, an animal they'd actually have a fighting chance against. In several documented cases, mountain lions abandoned kills they had already made, walking away from food they had spent enormous energy hunting and capturing the moment they detected a human voice nearby. That's not a small reaction. That's a predator deciding, in real time, that proximity to humans was worth more risk than going hungry. And this wasn't an isolated finding. Tigers across India consistently give wide berth to villages, even when those villages sit in the middle of otherwise prime hunting territory. Lions in parts of Africa measurably reduce how much they move through areas with elevated human activity. These are different species, on different continents, with no shared learning or communication between them, all displaying the exact same pattern of avoidance. When a behavior shows up that consistently across unrelated species and unrelated environments, it stops looking like coincidence and starts looking like something written far deeper than culture. It starts looking like instinct. Now put all three pieces together, because none of them alone fully explains what happened. Endurance that let humans outlast animals biologically built to outrun them. Fire that triggered a fear response embedded in the nervous system of nearly every land animal on the planet. And group cooperation that turned every individual human into a single, terrifying component of something far larger and more dangerous than any one person could ever be alone. A slow, fireless, solitary human in the wild was still just meat. And for a long stretch of early human history, that's exactly what humans were. Vulnerable. Hunted, prey, more often than predator, but a human who could chase you to exhaustion under a relentless sun, who controlled the one thing your instincts begged you to flee from, and who could summon dozens more of their kind the moment things went wrong. That wasn't prey anymore. That was something the rest of the animal kingdom had never encountered in millions of years of evolution, and had absolutely no evolved response to. This is the part worth sitting with for a moment. You didn't invent this fear, and you definitely didn't earn it personally. You inherited it, built generation after generation by ancestors who outlasted, outsmarted, and outnumbered everything that ever tried to test them. You don't have to do anything to access that inheritance. It's already there, embedded in how a wolf reacts when it catches your scent on the wind, how a big cat freezes when it hears your voice carry through the trees, how every instinct in the wild responds the moment it registers your silhouette standing upright against the horizon. So the next time you're somewhere remote, somewhere genuinely wild, and you feel that small flicker of unease about what might be out there in the dark, remember this. Somewhere in that same darkness, something is feeling the exact same thing about you, and its fear is older, deeper, and far more justified than yours. Long before you ever learned to be afraid of what's hiding in the shadows had already learned to be afraid of what's hiding in you.